welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cassandra and this is my 2019 Camry SE. I have an Instagram, Supersonic SE, if you want to check that out. Otherwise, let's get right into the video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about buying a new vehicle. A lot of people have questions about how to go about buying a new vehicle, tips and tricks, and so today I wanted to go over a few things that I did myself when purchasing my brand new Camry, as well as some things that I learned along the way. So let's get into it. The first piece of advice I have for you is to write all the things that you must have in the vehicle. Write it down. Whether that be heated seats, a good stereo system, a V6, whether it be the type of vehicle, so car, truck, SUV, all that kind of stuff. I suggest getting your notepad, writing it down, and listing out the things that are must-have, absolutely no contradiction on that. So in my case, I wanted a vehicle with heated seats, a vehicle that I could adjust the seat, the driver's seat well enough that I could fit in the vehicle properly and be able to drive and feel comfortable in it, as well as a vehicle that was simple. A lot of times now you see cars with 1,000 buttons on the dash. You don't really know how to do anything. When you're trying to drive, eventually you get used to where the buttons are, but I wanted something with a simple look. I needed something that I could just quickly grab onto. I like knobs. I'm not a super digital person. Don't love that idea. So for myself, I wanted a lot of knobs and just a simple look to it. The last thing that I really was adamant about was having a decent stereo system and a decent infotainment system. So a lot of vehicles now, Tesla is a huge one, but even other vehicles, the infotainment system, the screen is huge. The screen is very large, and so it becomes iPad looking, and they have to add the screen on top of the dashboard. These were all features that really just bothered me. I didn't mind having a smaller screen if it was inside of the infotainment system, if that makes sense. So if that screen was inside of everything instead of sitting on top of the dash, that made me happy. So for me, I wrote down this list. These were things that I really wanted in a vehicle, things that I wasn't really ready to negotiate on. So first, write down your list of must-haves. The second tip I have for you is budget. So when buying a new vehicle, that can be a big expense. There is a budget that's involved, there is a timeline that's involved, and so you have to figure out how that works for you in your personal life. Maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you have a part-time job, maybe you have bills at home that you have to pay, children around. There are all different things that interact with this budget, and you have to think about this before purchasing the vehicle, otherwise things can get messy. So when I say budget, generally, unless you have enough cash to walk into a dealership to pay the car in cash, a lot of times you're going to have a payment. So the payment is usually bi-weekly, so twice a month. And with that being said, you have to find a number that works within your life. You have to encounter insurance. You have to think about gas, any sort of repair that you might have on the vehicle, whether that be now or in the future, oil changes. Hopefully you're not having any repairs, but oil changes, that kind of stuff, maintaining the vehicle. So with that being said, look at your budget, look at the money that's coming in, look at the money that you have that you can spend. And with that being said, decide on a number that works for you, whether that's bi-weekly, so your every 2-week payment, or a monthly number. And that is where you should start. So say your monthly payment is no more than $400. You can't go any higher than $400. Anything less, you're laughing, but $400 is where you draw the line. That's a perfect number to walk into a dealership with, because when you look at that number, you can then decide on how long do you want your term to be, as well as what type of vehicle are you looking at. Are you looking at a high-end Lexus? Well, you may not be able to pay that off in 5 years with a monthly payment of $400. But are you looking at something like a Camry where you are able to pull that off? So you have to think about what you have space for in your budget. The other thing you have to think about is, how long do you want to pay this car off for? Some people want to pay it off as fast as you can, get it out the door, let's go, let's pay this number off. Some people don't mind paying it off for 6, 7. You can go up to 8 years now paying off a vehicle, which is a crazy number. So that being said, If you're someone who wants to get your car paid off as fast as you can, like myself, that accounts for your budget as well. So if you're only able to spend $400 a month, you may have to stretch out that payment term a little bit longer so that you can get those payments under $400 a month. If you are paying for your vehicle over 8 years, and that is just something you have to do to get your number that small, think about whether you want to be paying that number for 8 years. This is a monthly payment or every 2-week payment coming out of your account for the next 8 years with this vehicle. You can definitely pay it off faster if you have the money. Dealerships always love when you give them a little extra. But just know that. Think about that when you're thinking about your budget. How long do you want to be paying it for? And what is the absolute maximum amount you can pay bi-weekly or throughout the month? The next piece of advice I have is test driving a vehicle. Some people walk into a dealership, look at a car, and leave with it that day. Me, myself, I could not do that. I went and test drove all the full-size and mid-size sedans at every dealership we had locally. I decided what I liked about each, what I hated about each of them, and went from there. I wanted, and I had the time to do this. That's the other thing. So find a vehicle you like while you have the time. Don't rush into something because you have to get a vehicle. So when I test drove the vehicle, I got in, I sat down. First step, I looked around, looked at my surroundings, figured out what was going on, and then threw it in drive. I adjusted my seat, adjusted things, then we threw it in drive and went off. I test drove it with my boyfriend, who wrote down everything I was saying as it was happening. So as I was driving, I went to adjust the stereo system, and I noticed that, I don't really like the way that's positioned there, or that's really distracting. Write that down. I didn't love it. You know what? I really like the way this steering wheel fits in my hands. The buttons are very well displayed. I can feel the steering wheel. That's a super great thing. So he sat and wrote down each of my pros and cons. And at the end of the test drive, we got the quote for that vehicle and went home. Eventually, I went over all of these and decided, what did I like? What didn't I like? What could I live with? What could I live without? We threw a bunch of them away. In the end, we ended up with 2. I knew which one I wanted right away. Almost upon getting into the vehicle and driving it the first time, I fell in love with it. But I wanted to go test drive everything else in case something else caught my eye, because normally the Camry wouldn't have caught my eye in any other case. So I went around, spent a couple months. I went slowly, spent a couple months, drove things, did what I could. You can do that all in a week if you wanted to. I decided on what worked well for me and went from there. After I test drove everything, again, went through them, decided I had 2 left, the Camry and the Mazda 6. I went through my pros and cons list, and it just came down to the Camry. I knew that was my decision from the beginning, but I wanted to make sure that it was the right decision for me. Another thing in terms of test driving sometimes people forget is they take it for a little boot around the block and they bring it back to the dealership. No. When you go for a test drive, take it on the highway, take it on the twisty and turny roads, take it on the bumpy roads, take it everywhere that you would normally drive in a week. Because when you're driving your vehicle, you're not going to avoid those areas just because you're driving a brand new vehicle. Hopefully you avoid construction areas and stuff like that. But if you're driving on the highway every single day, why wouldn't you take your test-driven vehicle on the highway? So, see how it feels in all the different types of conditions. The next one I would say is research. Do your research on the vehicle that you've kind of narrowed down. Say you have 3 vehicles in front of you. You're like, these are the top 3. These are the ones I really enjoyed. There's pros and cons to each of them. Now get on Google and do some research. It's important to know the recalls that these vehicles might have, any major issues, whether they be new or used, and just understand the vehicle itself. So some vehicles are great. Some of them work well, everything's good, they've been good for 30 years. Some of them have recalls all over the place. Make sure you just know these things as you're going through the process. Know your shit. Go into the dealership knowing your stuff. That is so important. You have done the research, you know what vehicle you want, you know what you're going to do with it. This is the one, I know what's up. When you walk into the dealership knowing what's up, they have a way less time taking advantage of you because you know what's going on. Remember that. Couple more. Negotiating terms or deals. So it's important to know that a dealership is a business, just like anything else. McDonald's is a business. All of these places are businesses. They are exchanging their services or their products for money. With that being said, there are terms and conditions that you can negotiate. Know that they are going to make money off a vehicle no matter what. That's how it is. So maybe you want to ask them if they can throw in some tinted windows for you. Your brand new vehicle, first brand new vehicle, you're super excited about it. Hey, do you guys, can you throw in some tinted windows for this deal? Or can you throw in some winter tires? Or can you throw in a service for free? Some oil change? Again, it's a business. They're not going to lose money on you. Maybe they can't throw in winter tires, but they have a good connection with someone locally that does the winter tires and does all of that, or even their own business, and they can give you some money off or give it to you for half price or whatever that looks like. So they do know people. They are a dealership. Negotiate those terms if you're able to. Lastly, do a full vehicle inspection. When you get the vehicle in front of you, whether it be the one you test drove 3 weeks ago or a brand new one that just came off the truck, do a full vehicle inspection. Get on the ground, make sure all the side skirts are looking good. Get in the back, make sure the bumper is good, the mirrors are good. Inside, make sure there's no tears or anything in the seats. Make sure you do this during the sunlight and daylight hours. That is when you can really see the imperfections in the vehicle. No matter how small, no matter how minor you may think something is, it's important that the dealership goes good for it. So if you see a scratch in the door, very important that you let the dealership know as you're standing there before you have driven it off the lot. Make sure that they know, hey, there's a scratch here. Have them write it down. Maybe they're going to bring it to a body shop. Maybe they're going to buff it out. But you're buying a brand new vehicle, therefore you should get a brand new vehicle no matter what's going on. So make sure you take a good look at the vehicle all the way through. Take your time, look it out, make sure it's good before you purchase it, before you go anywhere with it. So these are some tips and tricks that I've used throughout my buying experience. I hope it can help you guys. Let's go through them one more time. Write a list of what you must have in the vehicle. Look at your budget. Make sure you could buy the vehicle. Test drive, test drive, test drive. Go everywhere. Enjoy the ride. Do your research. Make sure that the dealership knows that you know your stuff. Negotiate the terms, get some deals in there, and do a full vehicle inspection before driving it off the lot. I hope this helps you guys in terms of buying a new vehicle, or just gives you some ideas in terms of what you can do with your next vehicle. A little sit down and talk style video, which I wanted to do a little bit more of throughout the season. But if you have any suggestions or anything you want to see, please leave it in the comments below. I have a variety of videos on my channel, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit the notification bell. It always helps me, and seeing your support is wonderful. Take care, guys. Have a lovely afternoon.